Folks, welcome into another episode of SportsBookReview.com's Roundtable series of videos. We keep you updated on everything off the field. And today, how about this? An NBA topic. Let me bring in my esteemed panel today. Gary Seegers, Ian Cameron, and Teddy Savransky. This is interesting because when these topics pop up in the offseason, even though technically it's not the offseason in the NBA, I love to talk about it. It's one that doesn't seem to go away since the NBA instituted the one-and-done rule where you can't jump from high school and get right to the pros. Now we take a look here, Gary. I'm going to bring you in. Jalen Green set to go to the NBA G League and bypass the NCAA. Nice paycheck of $500,000. But is he shorting himself? And is this the right move, do you think, Gary?
Initially, I thought it was the wrong move. You're going into the G League against guys that are fighting for their careers, guys that have been in the league for a while, that have dropped back, etc. These are guys that you don't want to be developing against. They're going to make you look bad. It's going to hurt your stock in the draft. Each pick that you drop, if you go from the first pick all the way down to the fifth pick, you're losing millions of dollars with each pick. I thought it was a bad deal at first, and then they explained what the developmental team actually was. In the G League, it's typically 50-some-odd games that teams would have to play. This team in particular, which is put together by Sharif Abdur-Rahim, they have put it together where this team is only going to play 20-something games, so you're not putting a lot of miles on them. It's totally developmental. They're bringing in kids from high school. They're bringing in kids from the draft that maybe didn't get drafted, etc. Guys that they are looking to develop. And this was not done as a big middle finger to the NCAA. This was done to get kids to stop going over to the NBL over in New Zealand, right? They don't want to go and travel overseas to check out and scout these kids anymore. You're paying them $500,000. Now, Jalen Green gets $500,000. Some of the other ones are only going to be making $100,000, somewhere around there. That's pennies to this league. And it's pennies compared to what they would be spending having to go overseas and, all the international travel, et cetera. Compared to that, it's a much better idea to keep them home, develop them here in an NBA system. I think it's a good move for him. If you don't want to go to college, you shouldn't have to go to college. I think this is the smart move for him.
You know what's interesting here, Gary? I'm going to bring Ian in on this conversation. When we take a look, because it used to say that the G League, actually the top playmakers would make $125,000 over the 5 or 6 month season. But now as the reports come out, they're upping it to around $500,000. My question to you, Ian, is when you take a look at this, why doesn't the NBA just waive the one-and-done rule and allow you to go from high school directly to the pros? Because if you're going to pay this kid $500,000, and again, Gary brings it up, they're not playing the 50-game season. It's not like you get drafted and you go to the team in Grand Rapids and you get buried on the bench and you might not play. It's almost like a showcase team that they're putting together. But dollar-wise, paying the guy $500,000 to do this and maybe another 2 or 3 athletes that would get that same amount, I don't know what the NBA actually gets out of this by saying, all right, let's just not let you into the pros, but we'll let you into a semi-pro team, but we'll pay you directly from the NBA about $500,000. What does this look like for you? And do you think it's even a good move here for Jalen Green to do this, Ian?
Money, 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 money. I mean, that's what it's about. I mean, Green's doing this for money. I mean, that's why, and that's what most of these high, big prospect high school players that decide I'm going to maybe try this G League idea instead of go to college are going to be thinking, I want to make some money now and still be able to hone my craft, improve my skills, test myself against professional players. I know it's not the best of the best in the G League, but you're still playing against professional players. And I think that's what a lot of people see. And I'm going to make a little bit of a comparison here to the way the hockey development system is working right now. College hockey is not the predominant system of development in hockey. It's not. It's the CHL. It's the Canadian hockey. It's the junior hockey leagues across Canada where the majority of players are going there to get ready for the NHL. And I get the sense the NBA wants to be like the CHL, with the G League. We want to basically try to get players coming out of high school to play in the G League as opposed to go to college and play in the NCAA and try to, make money off of that. To me, I'm old school. I would want to see players coming out of high school go to college. I want to see my college basketball still be strong, still have the best of the best talent, still have those elite dominant players in college basketball that can go on and have great careers in the NBA. And I think long term, from a financial perspective for the NBA, you're going to be investing a lot into making this work for high school players going to the G League. And you're in a situation now where you're dealing with a worldwide pandemic, and sports leagues across the board are hemorrhaging money and losing money right now. Is this really the right time to be thinking about an idea like this? I think from a financial standpoint, there's better things the NBA could be doing right now. So I'm going to go old school here and still say that I would prefer my high school basketball players to still go through college instead of this G League idea.
Exactly. And just like your Oshawa Generals back in the day with signing or having Eric Lindros there, getting that younger kid to come up away as opposed to me. You like that? I dropped that Oshawa Generals right on you.
I love it. Love it.
Teddy, let me bring you into the conversation here because it is about money at the end of the day when we take a look at this. I thought the blueprint was sent perfectly by Zion Williamson last year. When you take a look at a kid that goes to Duke, uses the NCAA for all their marketing purposes, doesn't pay a dime for that, then comes out, gets a $44 million contract being the number 1 overall pick and signs a record shoe contract at $75 million over 5 years. I thought that was done well, but now we're seeing a different path here with Jalen Green. Do you think, look, I don't know if he's the same type of superstar that's coming out for Zion, but still, he's expected to be the number 1 overall pick. Do you think this is a good business move by his agent, his family, and for himself, or do you think he probably should have went to college here?
I think it's the absolutely appropriate move. And let's talk about the options that players have coming out of high school. Okay. If you have the grades and you want to maintain the grades and you want to work within a system where you have no control, literally no control, your coach has all the control, your coach makes all the money, you make none, you can go work for the NCAA as an unpaid intern for the next however many years till you can get drafted. Sure, you can take that route, and most players have. You could take the overseas route. Brandon Jennings took that route. Ball took that route. That hasn't really paid out. Emmanuel Mudiay took that route where you're going overseas to play. It's not a great career move. It hasn't been. It's not at the start of your career. So you say, okay, well, what else do I got? Well, look, now we have this league that's made for guys like you, where it's not about making $500,000 now. And remember, it's as good for the NBA in a real way. Think about when players were coming out of high school and straight into the league. You had a handful of Kevin Garnett's, and you had an equal handful of Al Harringtons, who the team that drafted him and developed him isn't the team that he started with. When you're 18 and 19 and 20 and developing and trying to get a little bit of playing time, and by the time that rookie deal is over, you got to get paid. So it makes sense for the leagues not to have these guys draft right out of, come in right out of high school. It makes sense for the players not to go through an unbelievably corrupt organization like the NCAA, where everyone else is getting paid except for you. To me, it makes a ton of sense. And you're playing against high-level competition. And if you're good enough to be the number 1 overall pick, you want to be playing against high-level competition. You want to be playing against desperate players. So I think it's a great move, and I think it's good for the NBA. You don't want these guys overseas. You want them here in the States. You want them where you can develop them. I think it's a great move.
No, I like your point of view, Teddy, on this because, you're trying to protect yourself from the ownership group to the front office group where you have the kid that's 18-year-old or even 17-year-old playing his senior year. Then you draft him right to the NBA. Oh, he's really not what we thought. It's nice to actually get that extra year to take a look at him and then try to evaluate. So maybe if he is the number 1 overall pick and holds up, you take him, but you don't ruin your franchise a la the Philadelphia 76ers and trade up and get Markelle Fultz and end up destroying the team chemistry from that end of it. So it does make sense. But look, I have an 8-year-old daughter. And we've been watching Trolls World Tour all week long. It's going to be nice on Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time to sink my teeth into something that really matters. Gary, NBA The Last Dance, the Jordan doc with the Bulls, tease it up 9 o'clock. I'm really looking forward to it because it's going to get that insight of exactly what went down during the last championship season with the Bulls before they tore it apart. How about it being over 20 years marinating, Gary, getting it out to us? And we need it at a time like this, right?
Oh, you've got that right. The ratings are going to be astronomical. It's going to be huge. Everybody loves Michael Jordan. There was a story that came out that he's worried that everybody's going to hate him when they finally watch this. I think there's been so many stories about Michael Jordan that everybody's heard over the years. We all know who he is. He was a gambler. He was a jerk. We still love him for it because he's a winner. It doesn't matter what else you are if you're a winner. I think this is going to be fascinating stuff. I've been looking forward. I'm hoping that it's not overhyped. That's what I'm hoping. But it does sound like it's exactly what we want it to be, and I cannot wait for it.
Ian, I love behind the scenes stuff. I mean, I'm really looking forward to, well, we already know how it plays out, right? This is just going back and filming the day to day of what actually went into some of these transactions. I was just doing some, looks at this. That year, Michael Jordan made about $33 million. The second guy on the team, Scottie Pippen, making $2.27 million. The dichotomy is really interesting as you take a look at it. And look, I'm a certified Jordan hater, not because I don't appreciate the craft on the court. I was a huge Sixer fan. They bounced my Barkley Sixers each and every year they played him and stood in their way, and I'm sure a lot of New York Knicks fans would feel the same exact thing. But it's nice to see somebody the best of all time in their sport get that look behind the scenes. If you were putting it from an NHL terms, maybe, the 1984 season with Wayne Gretzky and just going through all those all-stars that they had, because I remember them knocking out my 1987 Philadelphia Flyers, one of the best teams on ice. I would have loved to see a behind-the-scenes perspective, but getting it this time where nothing is on, showcase 9 p.m. Eastern time Sunday night, Ian. Looking forward to it, man.
It's the right time for it, and it's going to do absolutely massive ratings. And you're right. You're not alone there. Cavalier fans, Pistons fans, Knicks fans. Oh, my goodness. The Michael Jordan Bulls treated the Knicks like human whoopee cushions. I mean, they just absolutely did whatever they wanted against them. I'm looking forward to it. There's no question about it here. Michael Jordan, I'm born in 85. I'm going to be 35 later this year. He's the greatest player in my era. And I think the Bulls are the greatest dynasty, certainly since I've been alive. And I think maybe ever in the NBA. I mean, there's not many other teams you could put at that plateau. And as much as I'm excited to see, relive the stuff on the court, because he was just an incredible player, Michael Jordan, I'm excited to see the off the court, behind the scenes stuff that this documentary is going to show, and all the turmoil, particularly in that Last Dance season, the 6th and final NBA title they won in the 90s. Jerry Krause and Phil Jackson didn't get along. Jerry Krause wanted Phil Jackson gone. He even had that memorable quote, "You can go 82-0 this season and you're still gone after this season." He didn't invite Phil Jackson to his stepdaughter's wedding that year when he invited all the Bulls assistant coaches. He invited Tim Floyd, who eventually became the successor to Phil Jackson in Chicago as the head coach, and didn't invite Jackson. That's how bad things were. I think Krause kind of torpedoed that. They actually could have won maybe one more title, maybe two, if he doesn't have that big conflict with Jackson. But, Michael Jordan, the ultimate competitor, in addition to being a great player, and would do anything at all costs to win. He punched Steve Kerr, a teammate of his, in the face one time. Tells you how he would do anything to motivate his teammates, get the best out of them, push them to the limit that they could, in terms of, bring your absolute best at all times to the basketball court. This is going to be a phenomenal, potentially a phenomenal documentary. I just hope it lives up to the hype. I can't wait.
It should be interesting, Teddy, because Ian brings up real valid points here. Because as we go back and look at this, it's not just like one of the years, like, oh, let's just pick out 94. Like, it's called The Last Dance for a reason. And you shake your head now that you look at it and say, wait a second, this was the best team, had the best coach, had the best player of all time, but they couldn't get along. You had to blow the entire thing up. It's amazing. I just wish we had Twitter and the social media age at this time back in 1998 to see, wait a second, let's really see what the Bulls are actually doing. I'm looking forward to it, Teddy. Sunday night, 9 o'clock in my house. My eyes will be peeled to this one.
So, but the whole thing with this is that we live this, all right? I paid attention that last year, okay? And I understand that it's a compelling story, all right? I know the story already, all right? I understand that we have nothing to watch, okay? I've watched this before, okay? Maybe not the inside quotes. We've all read it. There's nothing new that's going to come out of this. Be like, oh, wow, this is such a shocking revelation, And to say that, that I'm excited for this, like I'm excited for a game that hasn't been played yet. No, it's TV, man. We watch lots of TV for the last month, dude. It's some show about some guy that retired 20 years ago. Yeah, I was a Michael Jordan fan. Shoot, I'll tell you, I saw Michael Jordan for the first time live in 1984. At Madison Square Garden when the Bulls played the Knicks. I had a buddy that had tickets. We went down to the city. It was my senior year in high school. We went down and watched Jordan play. And I saw something that I'd never seen before or since, which is a hostile Madison Square Garden crowd giving the other team's player a standing O. And that was the first time. That was a game where Jordan took off from the free throw line and Tomahawk jammed. And the Knicks crowd, the Garden crowd went insane, and the Knicks won by double digits, and it was a great night. That's so to say, at the end of all that, in 98, when I don't want to ramble, but there is one point that I do have to make here, and that success creates egos. Okay, I've seen that in my life we've all seen that in our life. Whenever you got, oh yeah, shoot, I've been winning. Oh, I'm running good, man. Oh, I won again this week. You're hot, and all of a sudden you're somebody. You're hot. Jordan was hot for 15 years, and the Bulls were hot for 15 years. In that situation, you can't picture the egos staying in check. And what happens when the egos get out of check? Well, you have Belichick and Brady, and you have Jordan ending up in the Wizards. So, yeah, I'm sure I'm going to DVR it, but am I going to be watching with, oh my God, I got to, no. It is what it is. It's entertainment.
I love it. And that's the reason why I love it. You bring Teddy on here. He's going to drive that haterade bus. And I got to say, Teddy, I'm buying the bus fare. I'm sitting right behind you. We can do a show here and hate on Michael Jordan anytime you want right here on sportsbookview.com. But it is what it is. People will watch. The ratings will be big. And we do want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of sportsbookview.com's Roundtable episode with Gary Seegers, Ian Cameron, Teddy Spransky. I'm Donnie Seymour. Everything NBA in the quarantine, including those Chicago Bulls. Get it right here at sportsbookreview.com.